Hey guys, this is was it Sunday the 18th of Feb. So this is going to be another subscribers video, right? So I've had a couple of private messages sent, and the kind of the questions are pretty similar in terms of liquidity and how to spot it, why to spot it, why this one over that one, and so on. So I just want to show something really quick, right? And obviously, I'd rather this be kind of out in kind of out in the open so that everybody kind of can see this. And I know it might be a little bit embarrassing if you're not, kind of up to speed compared to some of the other traders or, but this is the best way for everyone to learn. So I guess the point is, like, when I look out in terms of, which direction, one direction, and this also applies to things like the news, you know, you're just trying to create a general bias, right? So when I look at things like Elliott Wave, all I'm looking for is what can I actually spot, right? Bigger picture. So if I'm looking at this, I'm thinking, well, we've got this massive, downtrend here. This is a daily chart. However, we've got this kind of move, up, right? So, the reality is, are we seeing this? Now, I don't care at this point, right? This is not Elliott related. I'm just kind of explaining this is the type of thing that when you set the bias, right? The reason and the rationale behind this is to say, well, can I see what's kind of inside this, right? So if I was to view this without going into monthly, without going into Elliott, in the grand scheme of things, without even looking at the weekly right now, I've got this massive downtrend, right? And then we've got this kind of, real upthrust in terms of momentum to the upside, right? So kind of locally, I'm saying probably weekly downtrend, daily uptrend, right? Now, obviously, until we cross this level up high, right, we're technically still in an overall downtrend, right? And this is kind of my argument with Bitcoin, in terms of the current situation, is bigger picture. Until we break that 69K high, we haven't really created any new ground, right? So if I look at this and I look at this, my first thing in terms of grabbing liquidity is I got one level there, I got one level there, right? What I'm then going to do is I'm going to come in a little bit more, maybe a little bit more local, and I'm going to look at things like this, right? Well, there's clearly a level there, right? We've got another level sitting just below it, right? So it's a nice little cluster, if you will. We've also got things like a gap sitting there, right? We can then look at the highs and we can say, well, we've got a pretty decent level sitting there, right? So this is quite a lot in terms of kind of intel, right? Now, at the moment, my general bias on a daily is that we go up, right? But obviously, bigger picture is we go up to come down, right? So this is the kind of thing that I'm looking for. And, you can do this in 30 seconds, right? This is kind of glancing at the charts, what are we seeing? So what I'm looking for, kind of where next, why next? If I keep this in mind, it's kind of up to come down, right? What I'm looking for is on a smaller time frame, I'm looking for exactly the same type of information, right? As to, what's I can go and stick, volume from the swing low up to maybe the high, for example, this one being the high, right? I can look at what we've got. So again, just in general terms, change this color to be red so I know what it is, right? You can mark these things up as you want. I don't always use the volume, but the general idea is just to highlight some things of interest, right? We've got obviously volume falling off there. So again, even if I put that as just an arrow for now, right? Then obviously from there, I'm still thinking I need to go up basically to kind of carry on down or up to keep us going up, yeah? So when I look at this right now, without too much kind of thought process, what you want to do is go back a month, go back 3 months, right? In terms of the like bar replay, go back and flatten up the bars, and then build yourself up to a point where you're almost coming into the current week, right? So I'd finish off with obviously Friday just gone, with the view of understanding the situation that I'm kind of assessing ready for Monday, right? So where we are right now, we've got this kind of low drop in volume, right? We've got a couple of high points here. We've got this kind of point of control, so that's definitely an area of interest. We've obviously got a high, right? We got a nice little cluster down low. And therefore, if the assumption is right now, overall trend down, but we need to come up, right? Then I'm seeing something along these lines, right? So without much kind of info and intel in terms of Elliott, bigger picture, that's enough of a bigger picture to give me some grasp in terms of, where, why, what, and hopefully you can kind of see this, right? And although I've stuck this into replay, I genuinely haven't clicked play or fast forward or anything on this, right? So this isn't, oh, let me show you and I'm going to do this in hindsight. This is me looking at the chart again, kind of first time from this point, and I'm on a 4 hour time frame, so I'm not quite sure where we are, anyway. If I wanted to do this properly and I was going to take this as a trade myself personally, I'd go in, I'd find out where we are on the Elliott side. I'd look obviously for the overall general bias. I'd look for the bigger trend in terms of where we are monthly, kind of in, down, out. Then obviously, if it's weekly that I'm saying is technically up, then obviously daily down. So at the moment, these are not really aligning for me in terms of taking a long-term trade, right? If you come into looking at this as a shorter time frame trade, then what I'm looking for now is, let's assume that, before whatever day this is, let's just say this is, this is Thursday, so this is great, right? If I put Thursday on there, if I put on Sunday slash Monday, so that's close enough, right? Then the general idea is we've clearly seen, the following week probably being up, right? Oh, sorry, the previous week being up the following week now, right? So if you imagine the bars and the momentum I talked about in terms of the general bias, right? So this is Thursday, Wednesday, Monday, right? So this is the Monday. We've obviously had Monday through to the following Monday, right? Just Monday to Monday, which means we swept down low and we've now swept up high to break some lows, right? So overall, the bias right now, that previous week is, if I do this with a different color maybe, right? We come into the Monday, so there's the Monday. We've swept up and then dropped down, so it changes to something like blue, right? We then come into the next Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Monday, right? So this particular Monday, we've gone kind of up and broken the low. So just think of it like the Asian session sweep, right? We then drop down again. This now takes us through Thursday, Friday, now Friday to Monday, right? We've literally gone up and broken another new low. So at the moment, the current momentum is to the downside, right? So when I'm looking for a bias, I'm saying, well, there's our first target because that was the drop in volume. My overall bias is technically up because although we've got this down move, we're actually bigger term up, right? And then much larger way down, right? So the way I'm reading this and the way that I'm seeing this is, if, for example, we now go and break through this, I want to see almost a constant, daily move, right? Where it sweeps the high, drops down, sweeps the high, drop down, sweeps the high, drop down, right? Now, obviously, what I've just drawn there, hopefully the penny drops, right? In terms of when you think of a motive wave, when you think of a corrective wave, we go up, we sweep below, we go up, we sweep below, we go up, right? Exactly the same to the inverse, right? So if we were to look at this and say, right, this was now previous week, there's our Monday, right? So I'm going to play this forward and see. Now, we come in, we've tagged that area of kind of low volume. We still haven't closed, right? So the point now is, when we look at this and say to ourselves, well, what have we actually done? Well, we've come to an area of interest. We haven't really closed. Well, let's see what we do before we come into Monday, right? We've now closed well below, right? So with this particular close, the bias at the moment is still, we'll be going down, right? So forget what I just said now in terms of, well, I think we're going up. The point now is we're going down until we get a change of character because we've already cleared this level. So the next major target is here. So my bias right now is, unless we start to sweep above here, right, my target is this one. It's kind of as simple as that, right? Now, I know, some of you might still be confused in terms of, well, why down, not up? The reason that I'm saying now down, not up, but I'm changing the prices, I'm working with the chart. I'm working kind of for the chart rather than just kind of predicting the chart, right? So the general idea at the moment is, where's our next kind of sweep on liquidity? Well, it's down low, right? Unless the chart says otherwise, right? So we instantly go up and we go above these levels, right? Now again, close above the level. So what you're now looking for is, you're looking for a change of character, right? If we are to go up, or you're looking for the pullback move to come down, retest, dropping, right? Because this is where, you can see, two plays currently, right? Now, what you want to be looking at and what we're looking for is pretty much like the, again, the Asian session sweep, right? The move down. We've had a move down. If we come up and we've created now technically a new high, which is this one, right? You're going to want another move back down, followed by a move back up, right? So the optimal kind of entry is clearly this, right? That's kind of where, if you were to stick a trade on, you'd be looking for a trade that would look long, like this, with your stop obviously underneath that. If, however, you look at the short position and you're looking for a position that looks more like, maybe a short from this low, right, or a short from this low, you'll be looking at your target. Now, the only thing you have here is you're going to have to be careful in terms of where you stick your stop loss, right? This now to the downside is less interesting than the potential targets to the upside. Yeah. Let me go to this one again, right? So what we're looking for now is some kind of clue. Here's a pullback. Now, what are we going to see from there? If we break this level, right, the chances are we're at a key level, which is this one, low volume. We've broken through, change of character, which means we're likely to go to the next line of liquidity. Right? Again, similar then, what you're looking for is, what does it do here? Is it likely to carry on, right? Or is it likely to reverse? Right? Now, obviously, if this doesn't break this blue, then down there is the target. Right? So what we're looking for now is nothing, nothing, nothing. We haven't broken the blue, so we're kind of technically to the downside still. Still to the downside, still to the downside, right? We now start out of the blue, right? So, in terms of where we are right now, that one is technically off the table as we currently stand. The next area of liquidity, right, is we got these little local ones, which is the one we just broke. We've got another one sitting there, right? We've got another one technically sitting there. These are the kind of targets, right? And what you want to be looking for then is kind of interaction at these levels, right? And these are going to be the clues, unless we break obviously to the downside, right? So at the moment, we've just kind of gone a bit sideways. If you zoomed into a smaller time frame, you'll see that that's kind of up, down, sideways. You probably start to create, a master pattern there on a smaller time frame, right? So again, we've got a bias. We've probably got a gap. Look in there, look at this one. So we've got a master pattern move on this one and a gap on this one, right? We come into that first area, look, and we reject, right? So this is what I said about in terms of having a clue, right? The clue there right now is that actually we could be seeing a rejection. So what I'm looking for here, right, is if we get a nice move away, a nice pullback, followed by a move back down, we could look at a potential short position, right, based on this side, but at this level. Right? Stop loss, obviously take profit now, comes all of a sudden that's a pretty decent trade, should we get that type of move, right? If we don't, next move is up. So we get our first move, first kind of pull back into the gap. That's the only trouble, right? Now we break the high again. So at the moment, we still kind of to the upside, right? So current situation, unless we break down now below this, right? Current momentum is still to the upside. Now we've broke down again, right? There's our new low. What we're now looking for this time, right? And you're just working with the chart every step of the way, right? with a view of doing this. Right? That's what we're looking for now. Right? See if we get the pullback. See if we get the pullback back to the same key level. Look, right? We're waiting to break that white. Right? There's the break on the white, right? So the first kind of trade, the first position could be, no, we have closed, but we haven't gone below, right? So probably if you were trading this, you probably would stick this on if you were automating it. But obviously, as you can see, it's gone literally straight back up, right? This is why confirmation for me is kind of key rather than sticking to just a kind of key level, right? So at the moment, I'm looking for a next break of that level there as kind of an entry point, right? There's the entry point there. And as you can see, probably straight up, right? So it's down for a loss on that kind of trade, right? So again, the other thing is, right, in terms of understanding this bias, right, is the bigger the time frame, the bigger the bias. The bigger the bias, the more accurate the bias is going to be, right? And then if you do end up sweeping one of the outside forms of liquidity, because I'm still on a 4-hour time frame, right? So you can do this obviously from monthly, weekly, daily, all the way down to your 4 hours, your 1 hours, your 15 minutes, your 5 minutes if you really want, right? But the general idea now, right, is it looks like we've just broken that stop loss. We've now broken a serious high, right? So we've now entered kind of external form of liquidity, right, in terms of outside a bigger range. So the point now for me is I'm looking at them getting rid of all of these, right, because none of these are relevant anymore. Right? This one's gone, this one's gone, this one's gone. The only one I'm keeping at the moment is this from a bottom, right? Now what I'm looking for is anything to the left. It's going to give me some kind of clue as to where we're at. Right? Obvious point there for me immediately is this kind of high. Right? Now, pretty much like the sweep, right? We've just swept this particular area, right? And we're still looking at a kind of uptrend to come back down, right? That's kind of the bigger play, right? So what we're looking for now is this type of move to come into this zone and then potentially reverse around, right? Because we've just had a nice little rally, back into this area, right? We get up to the zone, we tag the zone, right? We go just above the zone, right? Now, the question is, how far do we go into the level of liquidity? Or do we keep on going? So, zooming in, right? Smaller time frame if you want. Right? I'm just going to keep it on this just for kind of explaining the liquidity. What we now see is that we've gone into the area of interest and we've gone technically sideways. Right? We've got little things like a gap there. Right? There's going to be liquidity obviously sat underneath that candle. So in the grand scheme of things, I'd be looking at this and saying to myself, we're more likely, given we've swept the upper side of liquidity, to come back to grab some of these other ones, right? We're still making this kind of pattern. Look, this is where now we start to see a distribution pattern, most likely. Right? We potentially exit the range. And again, just think of this as, your master pattern. Think of this as, wrong one. Think of this as your Wyckoff kind of distribution area, right? Probably with your UT, UTAD in there. We want to be going, have a nice little move down. There's our move down, right? And then the general idea then is, again, you could probably stick short-term trade on this, right? I'm going to come back to the blue level rather than the underside of this for a stop loss just above, maybe a pip or two above. My first target's there, right? I'm then going to copy that trade, like again, right? And I'm going to go in on this one down to these kinds of lows, right? So the general idea is, you don't have to take two. This isn't me saying, oh, take one, take the other. But because we can see that we've gone outside of liquidity, we've got kind of the slowing momentum, right? We've had a kind of distribution type sideways action. So what you're really looking for is a move that takes you back into, right, It looks there like not possibly tagged yet. Nope, not quite tagged on this one, right? But the general idea is obviously, being aggressive, being greedy, depending on what you want to call it. This is again just for kind of explaining the situation, right? And me sort of just play this for a little bit. Do we carry on down? Yes, we do. There we go. Right, so again, this is an ugly trade. This is a 4-hour trade. It's just kind of the example in terms of where the liquidity sits, right? So there, look, obviously, providing we tagged ourselves in or we put ourselves in. The point being is, if you're looking at this smaller time frame, you wouldn't trade on a 4-hour. You can kind of clearly see where the liquidity is sitting, right? So what you're trying to do is like I said, not predict where we're going, because that's near enough impossible. What you're looking for is to give yourself the best odds that even when you lose a trade, right, like the first one I put on, when you lose a trade there, the reality is, have you done enough research? Have you kind of covered yourself enough? Have you backed yourself enough in terms of the logic as to why, right? A lot of people say, and especially with what we've done the last couple of days, and the comments and that we get on the Bitcoin side is, oh, well, you said it's going down. No, I said that I hoped we were into this accumulation phase. Right? The reality is the price has moved up. The price has moved up and it's gone up and up a bit further. Right? So what we've done is this. Okay, you get to a point where the momentum runs out, and the reality is, if you were looking to trade that long, where would your entry have been? Right? I go back to what I said last year before, in terms of trading the 28 up to the 60k. Right? Personally, that's zero interest, right? That was a 1-to-1 trade. Right? Look at this trade here. This one was a 6-to-1, right? And that's a couple of hours worth, a couple of days worth at best, not 18 months, right? If you're looking at trading it like this, the idea is to change your mindset to allow you to see it in terms of what you want out of it, right? Not me saying, oh, well, I think you should go long now, right? Because that's never going to happen, right? I said in one of the comments earlier, I'll probably never buy Bitcoin again personally, right? That it's just the lack of interest in terms of the DCA for me would actually increase, my position in terms of the actual buy price, right? So that's almost a silly thing to do. In terms of where we are right now, right, and not just Bitcoin, just in general, is if you can find the logic, and I go back to, like I said, I'd stick Elliott Wave on this. I'd look in terms of where we are monthly, weekly, daily, and then the liquidity pockets, right? They become more and more obvious. Right? The point was, and showing what I've shown right now is obviously not knowing where the price is going, not knowing what I'm looking for in terms of this. It's just trying to put some logic as to where the liquidity sits, right? And as you can see from this particular move, we've gone, kind of external to external in this particular swing, right? All the way you're making these new moves, right? Your new moves, right? You could just go on and say, let's stick a long position where we are right now. Let's go and put a couple of pips below the sweep, and let's come all the way back to this level, right? I wouldn't trade that again, right? But the general idea is you could start looking for opportunities that potentially come out, and play themselves out, right? Depending on, lots of different factors, right? So let me just move this over. The point being is you don't have to go too deep as long as you've got a general kind of bias, right? The big bias and the real value of bias for me personally, right, is the fact that if I'm looking at an Elliott Wave perspective, I'm going to know roughly, there we go, just been tagged out to that one there, right? So the point is, without even, having a trade set up there, like, right, you can kind of show that these things are, plausible, right? If you understand where the liquidity sits, you're going to put yourself on the right side of the trade more often than the wrong side. Right? And it's kind of as simple as that. So don't stress about missing something. Don't stress about, oh, the price is rallied a bit more than you thought. Don't stress about any of that shit, right? Because if you're going to do this over and over and over again, what you're not wanting is, oh, well, I've missed Bitcoin at 35, it's now at 50. You don't want to kind of FOMO in at 50, thinking, oh, it could go to 100, right? If you put one full Bitcoin in at 50, you've just invested 50K, right? Bitcoin goes to 100, hey, look, you've got another 50K. That type of move you could make on, 100 grand account, 2 trades, 3 trades, right? And if I was realistic, you say 10 trades, right? And that is still only risking, a grand at a time. So just start thinking a little bit different in terms of the professional aspect of trading, rather than the gambling take on this. I've bought a lottery ticket and used my punt, right? And that's all I wanted to share this morning, right? So if you've got any further questions on liquidity, stick them in one of the, whether it's technical questions, whether it's the crypto chat, whether it's, Forex channel, it doesn't really matter where, right? I'm thinking the only reason I'm saying I'd rather you guys kind of put this out kind of publicly, openly, is don't feel embarrassed in terms of everyone was a learner once, right? Everyone is still learning, right? Including myself and Paul. The point being is what we want from you guys is that, the shared knowledge, right, is more valuable to the rest of the group as well as yourself. Okay. So anyway, enjoy the rest of the weekend. Hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you on the next stream. Cheers all.